I think I was recommended to Hunter.
Yeah.
And I had treated lots of high-profile folks, continue to coach lots of high-profile folks. So there's that. There's this too. When you're suffering, it doesn't matter. It really levels the playing ground, and one's political affiliation doesn't matter. If you think someone can help you at a moment of desperation, it levels the playing field. Otherwise, yes, I suppose it would be curious. It was during the debate with Paul Ryan, the vice presidential
how
debate.
did you pick that up so early?
Well, one of the benefits of being a psychiatrist is you learn to listen to yourself as you're listening to others. So you don't just have things roll over you.
Yeah.
You tend to say, well, why am I uncomfortable with this? Why am I having a strange feeling about it? My feeling at the time, listening to Joe Biden, was this feels like a staccato performance. It feels brittle to me. And not just because he was debating and he has a habit, let's say, of interrupting, but because the interruption seemed too frequent and inelegant during that debate. And I felt like his laughter was also arresting. It didn't seem to me to be appropriate. And so I thought, well, what could be an explanation for that? And I went on Fox News and said, well, one explanation, I haven't interviewed this man. I'm not diagnosing him, but some folks who have that kind of behavior, when you feel that from them, have an element of dementia. So I may have been the first one in the country to say, maybe there's an element of memory loss here.
And that was 7 years before he announced that he was running for president. And I must say, in early 2020, when I saw him on the campaign trail in New Hampshire and Iowa, he was obviously cognitively impaired. It was even then clear. So it's incredible that he got through the presidency as well as he did, really.
You know, when you're dealing with family members, by the way, people do this themselves. It'll be a different word choice that a loved one uses, or, asking a question again.
Yeah.
And you're like, right? But that's when you're connected with someone in an incredibly, powerful manner, and you're perhaps seeing them a lot of the time. When you train as a psychiatrist, again, you're listening to yourself listening. And another example would be folks who have subtle seizure disorders. We're taught to think of them as potentially sticky. What does that mean? It means that if you feel like you can't detach from someone, then it might not just be that they are insistent people during a discussion where you're like, I think we're done with this discussion, but it seems to be going on forever. It might be that they have a subtle seizure disorder. So you learn all these things. That was my instinct. I went to Roger Ailes' office. It happened to be after that debate. We just happened to be meeting. And he said, what did you think? I said, well, I'm a little worried that he could be suffering an impairment, as long as it's not saying that I diagnose him. And I make clear I haven't interviewed the man. I never met him.
Interesting, because I remember watching that same debate and marveling at how Joe Biden was so skillful at really demolishing Ryan, and I saw those interruptions as being sort of aggressive and putting Ryan off kilter. And then the inappropriate laughter, I saw he used laughter as a weapon. And I mean, in fact, I think he does use laughter as a weapon. It's quite effective.
I think so too. I just think that there are moments that I felt that weapon is misguided in this situation.
Misfiring.
There are amazing stories from my medical school days. One was a lecture that was given by the head of endocrinology. I thought it went just fine. At the end of the lecture, the head of neurology went up to him. He said, we're going to go get a CAT scan. He had a brain tumor.
Wow.
It was very subtle in terms of the pace of the language that the head of neurology said, that's not right. And that's what I felt.
Interesting. What do you think was wrong with him at the end? I mean, we saw him freeze in that final debate. What was going on in his head then? Was that a seizure?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but perhaps. a continuing degree of the same kind of cognitive issues. And the freezing, I think his family said he was sleep deprived. Sure, that could certainly play into it, particularly if you do have any kind of cognitive impairment. You need to have everything dialed in that case. Sleep has to be good, supplementation with the right supplements. Your health has to be tip-top shape so that your neurological status isn't impacted by other bodily functions. So I wouldn't know exactly, but it wasn't surprising to me because I saw it way back when.
Yeah. And the other burning question I have about the Bidens is Hunter Biden was your client, your patient, and he left another laptop at your place, not to, I think, a few weeks or months before he abandoned the famous laptop in the Delaware repair shop that we reported from at the New York Post. But before that, he'd abandoned this other laptop, and that's one of 3 laptops I know of from the laptop that he's either lost or abandoned. Well, again, is that some Freudian thing, especially when the abandonment of 2 of those laptops happened within weeks of his father announcing he was running for president in April 2019?
I don't think you have to be a psychiatrist to say if somebody's leaving behind information of that kind, laptops, maybe there's kind of a Freudian desire to be rid of that part of your life. You know, it's interesting. I don't know that Democrats would agree with this, or a lot of them, but God works in mysterious ways. And if you are unsettled with the kind of life you're leading or your life story, if it's not authentic to you, and I don't know if he had that sense. I mean, after all, he's evolved apparently into an artist, quite different than what he was doing. Then you may arrange unconsciously to rid yourself of that false persona.
Yeah.
And if someone said to me, well, is it out of the question, Keith, that he would literally dispense with that part of himself by leaving it behind again and again?
Yes.
In a way that ultimately ends up with him pursuing a very different kind of life. I'd say, well, it certainly is possible. It's kind of textbook.
Yes, interesting. I mean, also, I divined in my amateur psychologist way that
Miranda divined. I love that. I'm going to use that.
That Hunter, he adored his father in a very deep way. I mean, he was his only parent after his mother was killed in a car crash when he was very young. But Joe Biden is a difficult person, and I believe deeply dishonest, which I think is difficult for a child. I'm sure that if a man is dishonest in public, he's dishonest at home. And to be promised things by your only parent that don't come to fruition, I think would be brutal. And also, Joe Biden was deeply selfish, and all he cared about, in my view, was his ambition, his new career in the Senate. He abandoned his 2 little boys to be brought up by family members, although his cover story was that he came home every night on the train. So I feel that Hunter, in a way, hated his father as much as he loved him. And by abandoning those laptops, he was doing great damage to his father. I mean, in fact, that's exactly how it rolled out. I think the fact of those laptops and our reporting on them punctured the myth of Joe Biden as honest Joe, the best father in the world, modest Joe, etc. And instead, we saw him as, I think he is, as corrupt, an influence peddler, a user of people, including his family, and fixated on an image of status and success and money. Is there anything that you can add to that, or do you think that's wrong or right? It's just my guess.
I think it's a psychological perspective. You're a great student of the episode, the family, et cetera. I can't really say more because I don't want to cross any boundaries and say more than I should about Hunter. I can say this, though, because it's known. If you are, as Hunter was, in the backseat of a car when your mother and sister are killed, it's an indelible event. And would that set someone up to need a tremendous connection and have a magnified kind of hope that things will be okay and that the person who has, now become your only parent will acquit himself perfectly? Would you bond with that person in an incredibly powerful way? Yes. Could that lead to some ambivalence about it? Sure. Because again, you want to be yourself. Everybody wants to be an individual. If your potential to do that and declare, this is who I am, literally who I am, that's a biblical thing. I am. This is who I am. This is my immeasurable connection to God. If that seems to be eroded by an outsized connection to another person, even your dad, you may have to do something unpredictable, dramatic, and even unconscious in order to have your own path in life. And again, I talk about this a lot, but the universe or God, I'd say God, is ingenious and perfect. And you may not, you wouldn't want to get out of this life without becoming yourself.
Interesting. And Hunter Biden, of course, had the perfect older brother, Beau, 1 year older than him, who was the golden child and never seemed to set a foot wrong, and who Joe Biden had kind of anointed as his successor in politics to carry on the dynasty. And Hunter, who was quite a sensitive little boy, very artistic, wanted to be an author or a painter, was kind of dragooned into the family influence peddling business as the bag man. And I never got the feeling his heart was in it. And I know you can't necessarily agree with that, but if someone is in a position like that, would it make sense that they would then become an addict to try and escape from this reality that they don't want to be in?
Well, we don't even have to talk about Hunter to talk about that. But in terms of what opens the door to addiction, it's unbearable pain. People, Freud talked about the pleasure principle. People don't want to embrace their pain. They don't want to plumb the depths of that, even though that's where your buried treasure is. That's where you're going to learn who you really are.
Really?
And what you can overcome. If you aren't able to think about how profound a loss you suffered as a little boy, for instance, you might then find yourself using drugs in order to not go there.
Right.
Would we think of anybody in that situation as evil or bad? We think of it as human. All stories are understandable if you really get all the facts. They all add up. I've never met anybody, including serial killers, etc. I've never met anybody whose story didn't make sense, where I say to myself, well, where did this come from? No, it always seems to make sense. And so what do you do in your writing? And as a journalist, you're making sense of things that other people might not have the time, the interest, or the experience to do. And this story is no different than that.
That's a very compassionate way of looking at the world, really. Even a serial killer. What about psychopaths? Aren't some people just born evil and it's not really a factor of bad experiences?
One of my favorite topics. I think if there is such a person, I have not met that person. Can wonderful DNA insulate you against becoming destructive in this world, even though you've lived through really difficult things?
Yeah.
Maybe. Could very pristine neurochemistry do it? Maybe. You know what actually does it, I found, is did you have one person who believed deeply in you and saw you? That person, by the way, can be a psychiatrist, psychologist, life coach later on.
Right.
But some of the folks who I've talked to who I say, man, you went through this and this and this, and you're not a serial killer?
Right.
They say, and I ask them, who was the person who you were sure loved you as a kid? And that question never goes unanswered. So that's important. And then also, I think it's impossible to weigh and measure all of these things that go into, did someone become Charles Manson or not?
Yeah.
By the way, Charlie Manson said when he was sentenced to death, you can't kill me, I'm already dead. Right. Yes. Can you be resurrected? We know what the Bible says about that. Of course you can. Now, can we let you out of prison while we try to resurrect you? Not if you've killed somebody, right? Sadly. But I say sadly because I really do believe that people are born good with the potential to do good. And then events transpire. And perhaps some of the events are, hey, not great neurochemistry.
Right.
Vulnerable DNA. But it never trumps story. And so, I'll tell you a little story. We have some time.
Yes.
I met with somebody who this was in a prison, who had almost killed a woman. And because he didn't kill her, she identified him, and he was given a very lengthy jail sentence, and I was evaluating him. And I said, kind of like Columbo on my way out the door, I said, I have one more question. I said, what? I said, you didn't kill her. He said, no. I said, and she identified you? Yes. I said, well, why not? He said, doesn't matter. Now, if you're a psychiatrist, you lean in more, or a journalist. I said, no, it's okay. Tell me. No, nothing. I said, tell me the nothing. He said, well, it's weird. I had a teacher in 3rd grade, and she said, I know what they're saying about you. Not good things, by the way. But I think you're a good kid. I heard that again when I was going to kill her. So I didn't.
Wow.
Now, if one statement by a 3rd grade teacher can save a life decades later, how powerful is a father in a child's life, whether you've lost your mom and sister in a car crash or not? But imagine if you have.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. The other question, last question I have about the Hunter Biden before we get on to other interesting things, is I mean, tell me the circumstances of how he left his laptop at your place, and how long was it there, and did you try to get him to take it back?
So he left the laptop and a number of other items, and
clothing, nice clothing.
Very nice clothing. I was tempted.
Expensive clothing.
I think we might be the same size. I encouraged him to pick it up several times, and finally said, listen, if you're not going to pick it up, I'll ship it to you. Never got an address where to send all this stuff. And then because it was still in my office, it was seized during, as you've alluded to, the raid of my office by the DEA, where they seized things, including Hunter Biden's laptop.
And all your guns.
My guns had been taken, interestingly enough, by the police prior to that. And
why were you being raided?
To this day, I don't know why.
Really? And they've never charged you with anything?
They have never charged me with any crime.
Right.
No.
Really?
Not at all.
And did they give you guns back? Or
no,
any
they
of
didn't.
your property?
They gave me my property back. The guns, no. I think I may have to go to court to get those back. But it does bring up another issue of, when do you stand up for yourself and when do you accede to things? I suppose I could have said, I'm not turning them over. And I still think about that.
Yeah.
Right. These are the moments in life where you say, one way to say it is, am I Donald Trump or not?
Yes.
By the way, and I just got the chills because I think he's so instructive to so many people in terms of personal strength.
Yeah.
That was not my Trump moment. My Trump moment would have been, no, not doing it.